mic is live, the stage is set. Words like fire you won't forget. Every topic, every thread. Living stories in your head. Turn it up, feel the beat ignite. Conversations flowing bright. In your ears, day or night. This is the sound that feels so right.
As always, everything we discuss is for entertainment and is speculation. Please like and subscribe, and definitely join our discussion in the comments. If you're ready, let's get into it. It was Thanksgiving weekend, 1989, in Acme, Washington, one of those tiny Pacific Northwest towns where everyone waves when they pass by, and where the sound of the river mixes with the hum of old trucks on gravel roads. Mandy Stavik, 18 years old, was home from her first semester ever at Central Washington University. She was full of life, athletic, smart, and funny. Her mom, Mary Stavik, said Mandy could walk into a store and make 3 friends before she left. She was an honor roll student, a flute player in the band, an athlete who'd been captain of her high school track team. Mandy had big dreams. She talked about becoming a teacher or a writer, maybe even traveling after college. That Thanksgiving weekend was supposed to be about family, food, and plans for the future. On Friday, November 24th, Mandy spent most of the morning relaxing with her mom and siblings. That afternoon, she said she was going to go for a run, her usual route along Strand Road, with her German Shepherd mix, Kyra, trotting faithfully beside her. She told her mom she'd be back soon. She had plans that evening to go to the movies with a friend. But Mandy never made it to the movies. Only Kyra came home, and Mary knew instantly. She said later, that dog never left Mandy. If she came home alone, it meant something was terribly wrong. As the sun set that evening, neighbors began to worry. Calls went out, cars drove up and down the dirt roads, flashlights cut through the fog as volunteers and deputies searched fields, creeks, and barns. For 3 agonizing days, the small town held its breath. Then, on November 27th, the worst was confirmed. Searchers found Mandy's body in the Nooksack River about 3 miles from her home. She had been raped and drowned. The news spread like wildfire. People cried openly in grocery store aisles. Doors that had never been locked before were bolted shut. Parents stopped letting their daughters jog alone. That weekend was supposed to be filled with leftovers and laughter. Instead, Acme, Washington would never be the same again. The water had taken more than her life. It had taken Acme's. Toward the river. Then came the medical examiner's report. The medical examiner found that Mandy had been raped and drowned. She noted that she had no defensive wounds, suggesting that she may have been overpowered quickly. Toxicology tests were negative. She hadn't ingested drugs or alcohol. The medical examiner also documented trace fibers on her clothing consistent with clothing from nearby vehicles or the killer's environment. The medical examiner was able to determine she had probably escaped and was running through an area thick with thorns based on the type of scratches on her legs. She also had a head injury and water in her lungs, indicating she was knocked unconscious and then drowned. It was 1989. DNA testing was barely being introduced. The technology existed, but it was expensive, limited, and slow. Still, detectives collected everything they could, labeling it carefully, storing it for the day when science might finally have an answer. The detective and his team began interviewing everyone who'd had contact with Mandy: family, friends, neighbors. Over 100 interviews in the first few weeks alone. They asked about her run, her route, and anyone who might have been out that day. The area was rural. Long driveways, barns, pastures, thick brush along the riverbank. It was the kind of place where a person could disappear without anyone noticing. Early theories pointed in all directions. Some believed it was a transient passing through on Thanksgiving holiday. Others whispered about local men who had admired Mandy from afar. She was well liked, maybe too well liked. There were rumors about jealous classmates, spurned crushes, and suspicious neighbors. One name reportedly came up more than once: a neighbor, a local man who lived less than a mile from Mandy's house. But back then, there was nothing concrete linking him to the crime. He wasn't known as violent, and without physical evidence, detectives couldn't make a case. The days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and then into years. Every Thanksgiving, reporters would call Mary Stavik asking the same question: any updates? Every year, she'd answer the same heartbreaking truth: no, not yet. In the meantime, life went on in Acme. People grew up, moved away, had families, but the shadow of Mandy's murder never really faded. Parents still warned their kids not to walk alone. People still remembered the sound of search helicopters over the river. Police followed every lead: psychics, sketches, local tips, but nothing stuck. They conducted over 1,500 interviews and collected hundreds of DNA samples. Still no one matched. Over time, a short list of suspects began to emerge: a passing motorist, a local farmhand, a boyfriend, and a quiet, seemingly harmless neighbor. But without modern DNA testing, every theory fizzled. The case went cold, though one small vial of preserved evidence sat frozen in a crime lab freezer, waiting for the day science could speak for Mandy. By now, we know the medical examiner's findings. Mandy was raped and drowned with no sign of a struggle. Her killer was calm, controlled, and familiar with her route. So let's walk through the major suspects that haunted this case for decades, and you can decide who you think did it. Number one, the passing motorist. So a witness with a dark pickup truck saw Mandy run past him on the side of the road that he was turning out of, along Strand Road, near where Mandy ran. The tire impressions found nearby were close to matching his truck, but not identical to the driver's. Could this have been a random crime? Possibly. Number two is the local farmhand. He was known to drink and act erratically, be involved with illegal activities. He had been seen watching Mandy before. Police questioned him, took his DNA, and searched his property. His impulsive, sloppy nature didn't fit the clean, calculated manner of Mandy's killer, though. Number three, the local drifter, the wanderer. He was always lurking around town. Everyone did know his name. A sketch was made of him and posted around town, and a warrant went out to collect his DNA, and he cooperated. Number four is the boyfriend. He was heartbroken and cooperative. He joined searches, he attended vigils, and he spoke openly to the detectives. The medical examiner's findings ruled out a crime of rage. There was no evidence of a violent outburst. And then number 5, the neighbor. He lived less than a mile away. His house sat right along Mandy's jogging route. He claimed he barely knew her, though, although they'd ridden the same school bus for years. His timeline didn't quite line up, but there was nothing concrete. Still, police made a note. Keep an eye on him. Over 20 years later, in 2013, cold case detectives reopened Mandy's file. This time, they had new technology, forensic DNA profiling. When they retested the preserved evidence, they developed a perfect DNA profile. The problem was it didn't match anyone that they had collected from. Then 2 things happened. When detectives visited the neighbor and asked for a voluntary DNA sample, he refused, something no other suspect had done. That refusal lit a fire under investigators, and he became their number 1 suspect. Around the same time, 2 women were spending the day together at a water park, and Mandy's name came up. The 2 shared stories with each other that would help turn this case. One of the women was around 15 years old, about 6 months before Mandy's murder. She was at a softball game with a bunch of friends and other kids, and they all piled into a vehicle to head to go get ice cream. One of the people in the car was the 21-year-old neighbor that they are now looking into for this crime. So this was back in 1989, 6 months before her murder. This 15-year-old girl was scrunched in the car near this neighbor, and he was just being creepy with her, taking a pen out of the glove box and running it up and down her leg and just being too touchy-feeling and just creeped her out. So she brought that up to her friend at the water park. And then the other friend said that years after the murder, she was home alone. She was a married woman at this point. Her husband knew the neighbor, that is the suspect in this case. And this neighbor guy knocked on this woman's door and asked to use the telephone. And since she thought he was a friend of her husband, she let him in. He went to go use the phone, and she could hear that he really hadn't called anybody. She could still hear the telephone signal, like he was pretending to call somebody. So that freaked her out, and then she was even more disturbed when he walked towards her bedroom, saying that he had always loved her and he wanted to be intimate with her right then and there, and he only left because she was threatening to call the police. So he did leave, and nothing happened to her. But both women told each other, "I know who killed Mandy," and they both said the same neighbor's name. So because they had both spoke to each other, they were now emboldened to go to the police to make a report together. So they did go into the police department and share their stories. And now the police were even more motivated to get evidence against this neighbor person. So they had to get creative. So Tim Bass is the neighbor's name. And Tim Bass worked at a local bakery. And the detectives were trying to follow him and follow his route, waiting for him to discard something because they have the DNA profile. They just need to be able to match it, and he was refusing to turn over his DNA. He never discarded anything on the route. So then the police went to the bakery and asked if they could swab the delivery trucks. And they weren't saying why. They were told, you need to go through the corporate office, and the corporate office told them no. So a female coworker of Tim Bass noticed what the police detectives were trying to do, And she flat out asked them, "You're trying to collect DNA, aren't you?" And the officer did confirm that. So all on her own, she set out to help. So she would watch in the break room, waiting for Tim Bass to throw anything away that might have his DNA on it. And she was able to collect a cup, a plastic cup that he had been drinking water out of, and a soda can. And she collected those and turned them over to the police. They were sent for testing, and the results came back that it was a perfect DNA match. So after 3 decades, Mandy's killer was finally unmasked. Tim Bass, the quiet, awkward neighbor, was arrested at his home without incident. He denied knowing Mandy well. He denied everything. When the DNA matched and he was confronted with that, he did end up changing his story several times, from "I didn't know her at all" to "Oh, yes, I knew her. Oh, then we had a relationship," because they had found his semen. In 2017, Tim Bass was arrested and charged with kidnapping, rape, and murder. At trial, prosecutors told a story of obsession and opportunity. Bass had likely spotted Mandy jogging and acted on a violent impulse. The DNA evidence was unshakable, a 1 in 11 quadrillion match. In 2019, Tim Bass was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Mandy's mother, Mary, finally faced her daughter's killer. In court, she said she had waited 30 years for justice, and that Mandy's spirit could finally rest. For the people of Acme, it was a bittersweet closure. The killer wasn't a stranger passing through. He'd been there all along, watching, blending in, pretending to care. But in the end, Mandy's story didn't vanish in the river that day. It lived on through her mother's fight for justice, through the detectives who never gave up, and through the science that finally gave her a voice.
Thanks for watching, hope you felt the spark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. Subscribe, it's free and keeps us going strong. You're part of the crew now, right where you belong. Join us next time, same truth, same fire. We bring the heat and never tire. We're typically unique and proud to be a husband and wife in podcast harmony. That could be unique, yeah, that's you and me. Don't forget to like and hit subscribe, it's free. Come back again, we'll be right here with truth and laughs and zero fear. We don't always agree, but that's the show. One love, two minds, letting it flow. We dig deep with crack jokes, we call it like we see. If that's your vibe, you belong here with me. We don't always agree, but that's the show. One love, two minds, letting it flow. We dig deep with crack jokes, we call it like we see. If that's your vibe, you belong here with me. We don't always agree, but you felt the spark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. We dig deep with crack jokes, we call it like we see. If that's your vibe, you belong here with me. Thanks for watching, hope you felt the spark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. It's free, it keeps us going strong. You're part of the crew now, right where you belong. Join us next time, same truth, same fire. We bring the heat and never tire. We're typically unique and proud to be a husband and wife and proud to be a husband and wife in podcast harmony. Yeah, that's you and me. That's you and me. Don't forget to like, hit subscribe. It's free. Come back again, we'll be right here with truth and laughs and zero fear.